I would love to start by taking us back 8 years
Okay, let's go.
to this letter that was published in The Guardian, which you wrote, which is called Letter to My Younger Self, which your co-founder at Vida, which is the company that you were building at the time, advised you not to write it because you said that investors may look upon it negatively, which is very indicative of what's more to come in our conversation. But first, this letter. Letter to my younger self. Dear Devika, you are 19 years old, starting your bachelor's at King's College London. Your excitement is overwhelming as you're about to embark on what you believe will be the best years of your life. In truth, they won't be. Soon you'll meet your first boyfriend who sweeps you off your feet and changes your life irrevocably. After 2 years together, you pluck up the courage to tell him you are leaving. It's the night you put a stop to the abuse you have endured. He throws a rage just like all of the other times. Your time with this man will take several painful years to talk about. You are too ashamed. He will throw you around like a rag doll. He will kick you, spit on you, strangle you until you almost lose consciousness. You will cower on the floor. He doesn't care that you're crying. If anything, the crying will spur him on more. You'll picture your family, your future, the life you want. This, Devika, this is the moment that changes your life. You fight back, you break free, and you run. Putting yourself back together is hard. The physical and emotional pain is overwhelming. You will hear his voice inside your head saying you deserved it and that it was your fault, that you are not good enough. You'll believe your world has collapsed around you. It has not. You will channel this pain into something positive. At 26, you start to believe in yourself again. You're headhunted by an investment firm that sees your talent and potential. You will invest less time and energy into dissecting the criticism of others. You'll realise their opinions don't matter. In 2016, you'll meet your co-founder and together you start Vida, a technology-enabled care provider. You make it your mission to ensure everyone gets the support, love and care they need. It's a personal mission for you after living with your grandmother who suffered a stroke when you were 10 years old. Over the 12 years she struggled with epilepsy and dementia, you saw 150 carers come through the door. You were struck by the lack of communication between them, the care providers and your family, and were appalled when your grandmother was over-medicated, leading to institutionalization. Seeing this happen as a child and being helpless to stop it has propelled you forward at Vida. The greatest challenge has undoubtedly been working in an industry that is rife with problems and skepticism. Many of the families you work with have been badly let down by other agencies. It's been tough to gain their trust, but your ethos has always been to treat clients like their family. This means you often get too emotionally attached. Your confidence as an entrepreneur will grow with each moment that passes. I bet you can't believe that one day you'll secure £1.6 million for the business by pitching to investors, many of whom were men, or that you'll lead a team of 20 that look to you for advice as they work to realise their own potential, as well as the 300 care professionals you employ to deliver high-quality care. I know you'll doubt this in the years to come, but you are smart, determined, and you have the precious gift of always finding the positive in negative situations. Your past suffering will not define you. It will simply magnify the beauty of the good people around you in the future. You won't regret a single step on this journey. You are a survivor who will dedicate her life to helping others. Devika.
Oh, that's made me really emotional again. What is this? Like, I've walked into this house. It is an emotional roller coaster. Wow.
How does it feel listening to that 8 years later?
I've not read that since, I think, maybe 7 years ago. It feels so powerful. Like, knowing that I wrote those words, I can just hear myself now writing that. I can hear the pain, but I can also hear how transformative. I really believed in myself. I really believed things were going to get better. And that doing that was one of the most powerful steps I've ever taken. But I can hear that. I can hear the pace in the letter. And I just feel, oh God, I feel so proud of how far I've come. So proud. Like, it makes me emotional. I feel so proud.
I love that. What do you think is the root to this self-belief?
Oh my God. Oh, that's such a strong question. I really started to believe that I had a power within me, and it sounds really crazy, but I feel like if I could have survived that, I started to reframe what was going on in my head from the victim that experienced the domestic abuse to the power and the superpower to be able to walk away from something like that. But not only just to walk away, that night that I talk about in that letter was the night he almost took my life. He tried to throw me off a balcony of a fourth floor apartment. And, you know, the details are not so strong in there, but I physically had to run for my life. And there was a moment when he was locking me in the bathroom and locking me in the house. Then I tried to get out of the bathroom by banging it. He would open the door, and then the abuse would start. So then I went into the bathroom and locked myself in the bathroom. And then I was terrified. I was like, if I come out of this room, is he going to take my life? And I genuinely, that night it was live or die, which is when I think back to that and I say these words, I survived it. And I think that power of belief that I was able to survive to the point that I'm still alive today gave me this root of I can do anything, and I want to do anything. I really want to step into that power because I know I have it within me.
Wow. Traumatic moments like your abuse, like being in care for your grandmother who you saw go through so much within her dementia journey, like it's absolutely crazy. You saw her come into your room age 12 thinking it was the bathroom. You saw carers abusing her. You saw the system medicating her. She had epilepsy. She developed schizophrenia. She defaulted back to speaking Indian because that's what happened when dementia patients started self-harming at 90. And your dad even walked out because of the stress of all of it. You've taken these moments of trauma and you have harnessed the power of them to then focus that into your work. And you mentioned something before, which was about how you've gone from this victim state and you've transformed it. Can you speak about that process of shifting your perception of these traumatic events?
Yeah, so I really believe that experiencing trauma, no matter what the trauma, you know, it can be grief from losing somebody that you care so deeply about and who was profoundly impactful in your life. It can be trauma from abuse. It can be gender-based violence. It can be trauma has such a large variety of meanings. But I believe that people who've gone through and experienced trauma to their core have the ability to change the world. I don't know what the miracle of that is or what the magic in that bottle is, but I feel like I've seen it in so many individuals that channel something so traumatic to do something better for this world. I see that so much. And they're not doing something better to better themselves. They're doing something to change the world because they profoundly believe that there is good out there and that they can channel that trauma into something really powerful. And I think that is the magic that makes people that have experienced trauma do the most incredible things. And it's that superpower. I think if you've gone through something that has profoundly changed you, you're not willing to accept mediocre or average. You really want to push yourself out there to harness the power of what you can achieve. And that is remarkable.
The thing I question in myself with my own traumas is how sustainable that drive is. So many entrepreneurs are sort of insecure overachievers who pushing hard to create something big in the world because of some internal narrative which often stems or is rooted in a trauma. And the thing I challenge myself to do is question how much of this drive is rooted in scarcity and a lack, and how much of it is rooted in abundance. How much do you think your drive sits in either of those two camps, and why?
Do you know, I've had the same questions. And I think it's one of those, I think it comes part and parcel with that trauma. Sometimes you think that you're doing it because you want to prove to the world that you are more than that defining moment. And I did carry that around for the first few years of acknowledging my domestic abuse experience. Was really baked in me trying to prove to the world that I didn't have victim written on my forehead. And whether that was what was driving me to try to change that perception of me, or whether it was because I really wanted to change the world and change what other women were going to experience, I think it came hand in hand with each other, because you can only really move through a place where you change that definition of yourself, because you have to get that self-perception to change. It was only the point when I believed myself to not be a victim that then I was able to then go out and change it for others. So it comes hand in hand with each other. I think that my belief now, my drive now, is so profoundly baked in making sure that other families don't experience what I experienced with my nan. It's so profoundly deep within me that I don't want everyone else to experience the trauma that we went through, seeing somebody we loved so much go through so much pain for 12 years. And on the other side, when I feel like my whys, which is what's driving me, around the domestic abuse and gender-based violence, I'm so passionate about making sure that other women don't experience what I experienced and take so long to be vocal about it. And that's what I believe now is pushing me forward. So where it comes from a level of scarcity versus abundance, yes, I think there's always going to be that level of scarcity. You're trying to sort of fix and heal something within you that is not there. But you can automatically get that abundance from realizing that you are shaping so many people's worlds around you. Like when I've read your story about losing your dad, and when I see how passionate you are about creating authentic conversations, everything that's driving you is because you want people to be as open and as authentic as you are, because you're going to give solace and comfort to other people that maybe have walked around keeping their trauma within themselves. I feel like that is making the world more abundant and a better place. So whether that comes from a level of scarcity where you want to show the world that you have this amazing story, and people may think of it as like, you're trying to push yourself out there. And people have said to me before, you're constantly talking about your story. I've had that said to me, like, oh, it's Devika's on another panel talking about her story. I don't care. I'll scream it until I'm blue in the face, and I'll keep talking about it, because if it can impact one person, then that is one person's life that I could change, and the same should go for you. And I read your stuff with such authenticity. I think it comes from such a place of love, and it's profoundly beautiful.
That's very sweet. Definitely did not expect you to flip that on me.
I told you I would.
I love it. Yeah. You sound and you speak from a place of having done a lot of work, lots of reflection. I'm guessing you've done therapy and coaching and all these different sort of practices, as have I, and have got so much value from it. Now, many founders I've spoken to who haven't delved into these things usually haven't because of a fear that if they unpick their why and the drive and the root of why they push themselves so hard, then it might mean that their drive goes away. And all of the favourite things that they've built in their lives have come from this incessant drive and focus on achievement. What do you say to that fear?
God, these questions are so profoundly great. This is stuff I ask myself every day. So my why, which is what I spoke about this morning, my why is so deeply ingrained in the trauma I experienced, which is, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it gives me this undeniable fight to keep going no matter what the challenges are I experienced. And my career history and everything that I've done has not been linear. It's been an absolute car crash in most situations, which I'm sure we'll delve into. But there are so many points in my story where I've literally been like, I give up. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm out. I'm tapped out. I don't want to do it. And something always comes back, whether it's, weirdly, I'll get a flashback of my nan. Always there'll be something in my head where when I do my breathing exercises, which we were talking about before, like as soon as I close my eyes, she's just right there in my frontal cortex, behind my eyes. She's just there. And every image I get is of her. She holds me. It's really weird. I have her like holding me when I was a child and looking at me with such love. And I feel so safe when she's holding me. I open my eyes and I'm just, in my head, I go, let's go. Let's keep going. Let's go. Let's do it. She's ingrained. There's something that's been so remarkably ingrained in my body through that experience that I just will not give up. I think now I've added to that drive, which is my daughter, who's 2, who gives me every reason to wake up in the morning when things are tough. You know, she's named after my nanny. So she's got Sita in her middle name. My nan was called Sita Rani. I'm Devika Rani. My daughter's Alba Sita. So we are profoundly connected through the generations. And I look at her and I see my nan so much. I literally look at her, I look in her eyes and I see my nan just there. And when stuff is, I get really emotional about this, but when stuff is really hard, that is what keeps me going. I just really remember why I'm doing this and why I want to help other families. And I think having that profound why is so important, but not everyone's why is so deeply integrated with something so personal, and it doesn't have to be. You know, I asked my husband the other day, I said, what makes you happy and what gives you the concept of wealth? What does wealth mean for you? And he said, it's being able to provide for my family, for you and Alba. He doesn't have a reason or how he will do that. He's not connected to he will do to make that happen. If I had the same concept of what wealth was, my wealth would be the ability to change this world profoundly so that people don't experience the suffering that I experienced. And if that gives me the wealth tangibly in money terms, then so be it. But money isn't a driver for me. And I've come to terms with that. Does that make me a bad salesperson? Yes. Which is ironically, weirdly, what I started off as in sales. And my one of my dear colleagues, amazing woman, Fiona, who I work with, she gets so sick of me offering pilots for free. But the reason why I do it is because I want people to see the value of what we've created in the product. I want them to experience it, because I know if they experience it, they'll realize why they need to buy it. Does that work commercially? No, but I'm not driving from a place of like make money from the outset. I'm driving from a place where I want to create people to have a change in their mindset and change the way care is delivered. The money will follow, but it's not my driver. And that's okay, fundamentally. But you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with what your why is and stick with that.
That sounds so beautiful and pure, but also so in tension with the reality of running a public listed company.
Oh, yeah.
You are having to account to shareholders and be very public and transparent about it, and of which the fiduciary responsibility of a CEO is to deliver a return on investment for the shareholders, which is entirely financially based. How do you balance that tension?
So this has been a tricky one for me, because the essence around a purpose-driven business that creates value should also make money. If you're doing something right, you should have the money on the table as well as driving purpose and making change. I've continuously worked in an industry that has been at the heart what's healthcare, and it's always been at the heart of like helping people and making a change in some sort of healthcare delivery. With Vida, I always struggled with the concept of making more money. There was a point in our journey where our margins should have been much bigger than they were, but I was committed to the cause that we would pay carers the most out of the whole standard industry, and we would charge patients or families less. We'd put the money where it needed to go, which was to the carers, and make sure the families weren't having to pay a lot of money. That was the pretense behind it all. And it got to the point where towards the end, it was like, this is not the right model. We need to make, our margins need to be, better, bigger. And it became massive disagreements. I couldn't flip my mindset to think that that's what we should be doing. But we were building the technology to power the profits. So basically creating operational technology that was going to streamline services so that we could put the money where it needs to go. And the technology influence was around logistical mapping. So managing carers out in the community, vast numbers of hours of care we were doing on a weekly basis, hundreds of thousands of hours of care across the entirety of the UK. That in the old methodology of delivering care through a dom care agency is all very manual. You'll have people sat there managing rotas. The whole pretense behind our technology was to use that technology to essentially match those rotas automatically based on who was out there, the hours they were doing, and based on sort of an AI matching algorithm. So I knew the money was going to come through those operational efficiencies. It was just going to take time. But I knew from the outset that I needed to do what I needed to do in terms of helping get the families onboarded and get carers onboarded. With Brain Plus, it's exactly the same. It is so difficult because we are a public listed company that we have to be showing revenue numbers tightly now to prove that our business model works. However, I take that with some real caution. What we're doing with Brain Plus is changing the face of dementia care. We're challenging how dementia care is being delivered. It takes time. I go into meetings with our CFO and team and say, I know that the numbers are going to be there. We have a really incredible pipeline at the moment, but I also know that it's going to take a mind shift. It's going to take people to really challenge their way of thinking in the care home sector about how dementia care should be delivered. And that takes time. But I know that we are going to get an incremental uplift at the point where mindsets have changed and people have been brought onto this vision, and we'll naturally see that go into revenue numbers. But there just needs to be an almost element of trust. Trust me that I know this is going to take a mindset shift change, because I've been there. I've been a young carer. I've been a carer. I know what point it's going to change, and we will see that happen. But just there's an element of trust. And that's what I'm banking on at the moment. And I do believe we've got some incredible investors, an incredible team that I'm so thankful for, that have that trust in me and they take that word. So it is challenging, but we're working through it.
There's a phrase which comes to mind, which I learned from our mutual friend, Dan Morissetta.
Oh, Dan. Love that guy.
Love them. And the phrase that he said to me in our interview, which is, hope is not a strategy. And this is something that I have to keep reminding myself of. And there is this balancing act where you have this internal belief where you go, trust me, I know this is going to work, while also taking that high level belief and boiling it down into very practical, this is how it's going to work.
Yeah, that saying is profound. Hope is not a strategy. It's something that I've been working through recently about how I translate the meaningful hope and understanding that I know this is going to translate into a change, into tangible actions that we can take to get us there, that materially look like they're evidence-based. Data is king. I've always been, actually, no, data is queen. Data is queen.
Yes, love that.
Data is queen, slay. And I'm a firm believer in that. And, data sells, and we need to be factually accurate with investors and shareholders, because at the end of the day, they are investing an enormous amount of money and trust, and they've got their own hope. They've got hope that their trust and their money is going to turn into something that is going to give them a return. We've got to then translate this wildly incredible strategy that is really going to change dementia care into tangible actions. Does that form multiple different pieces? Absolutely. So part of our strategy is we've got great logo customers that we want to have on our books who are some of the largest care home providers, that if we can work with them now, will actively challenge the way other care homes think and will actively convert them through the fact that they are logo customers, they've used us, and they can act as like a real kind of ambassador for us. We always knew those logo customers probably would have to do pilots first because they need to test out the product, because we're the first to market. No one's ever done what we've done in the care home space in the UK. So we knew exactly from the outset that we needed these logo customers to trial it out, to get the data, to get the outcome data and say, this works. So that was part and parcel of our strategy. So get those people to sign on through a pilot. And we did, and we have. The data we've collected is unbelievable. Like it proves everything we've been saying. We're now using that data to form outcome reports and sales collateral that we're now going to substantially market across every single care home that we could possibly get our hands on. We know through sales strategies, through processes, through a process-driven approach, that if we can get X number of care homes signed up over this period, we can land our target. That's not hope. That's being a sales expert and having an amazing team that knows what they're doing. But it took that trust and that hope in the strategy that it was going to work to now tangibly go after those targets. And it was that period at the beginning where I think it's that hope is not strategy, but you have to have hope that your strategy that you fundamentally believe in is going to work. And then there's trial and error. But we're in that phase now where I firmly believe we're going to smash it.
Wow, that is so beautifully nuanced. I love that, because they're not disconnected entirely,
No.
As you say. And often as the leader, you have to show as much confidence as you can. You have to convince everyone who is in your team that this is the right direction, and you have to present this picture of confidence and direction and positivity and focus and understanding and all of these things. And I think hope ties into that. And I love that it's not you entirely disregard it and you don't entirely lean on it, but it's still there. But I'd love to stick on the element of trust and specifically go back into the company you said it before, Vida, because that was an experience which felt like you had a lot of trust broken. And so I would love to explore your relationship with trust through that experience. Can you tell us a bit about the journey through Vida, which has now continued into this year, even years after you left?
Yeah. So Vida has been one of the most defining moments of my entire life. Setting it up, building it, exiting it, all of it has defined me and built me into the person that I am today. I owe a lot to the opportunity that I was given when I was 26 years old and somebody believed in me to found a business and gave me my first £50,000. I remember it vividly, that first moment. I also owe a lot to now my understanding of what works and what doesn't work and things I did wrong to help me shape how brilliant I am at building out Brain Plus. So I owe everything to what I did and the people that believed in me. However, it was a journey. It was a learning curve, and it has taught me what really matters in investor relationships and co-founder relationships.
Quick pause from this incredibly raw and rich conversation with Devika to say that if you enjoy this show and if you'd like to support us, it would mean the absolute world to me if you could do any one of these three things. The first and most impactful thing is share this with a founder friend. Is there anyone who would get value from this? That would be incredible. It's how these podcasts grow. The second thing is give us feedback. What is resonating? What doesn't? Where would you like future conversations to go? That is gold. The last thing is subscribe, like, classic things. That is how the podcast wheel turns, how we can keep going, how we can grow, get bigger guests, etc., etc. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me. Let's get back to the episode.
I was partnered with a co-founder who I had a lot of trust in, who I believed was going to lead with heart and intention and be a good person. And unfortunately, it turned out to be the complete opposite. he had a massive ego. He was bullyish to our employees. It all started coming out when we started getting younger female employees alerting us to, well, me, to the fact that he was being sexually inappropriate. And at that point, there was a huge stance that I had to take, and I was determined that I wasn't going to let an individual like this continue to lead Vida. I had to basically do my best to get him out of the company. And I did through a huge shareholder hearing, but unfortunately he'd had a lot of investors that had invested in the company through his network because he was an ex-investment banker. They were small investors and they proceeded to make my life really, really hellish. Some of the stuff that they were saying to me through emails, I was getting bombarded with really harassing emails from them at the point when I was still trying to run the business. We were trying to get rid of him. I was trying to steady the ship. At that point, we had about 45 employees. We were running out of money. We needed to do another fundraise. And I was absolutely terrified that the company was going to fall apart. I was really thankful that I had some amazing people that mentored me at the time who came in and rallied around me. One of them is Kate Burns. She was the ex-VP of Google UK. She took me under her wings and basically didn't let me fall. She knew I was going through what was at that time mental health crisis. I genuinely would sit and cry in despair with the harassment that was coming through emails, with the things that were being said to me. In the shareholder hearing, I was being shouted at. I remember vividly. There was shareholders on one side who were sort of pro me, or just kind of not really in his camp. And then the ones that were in his camp, all of his friends. And at one point during the hearing, I was sat at the front with Kate on my side. There was a lawyer and my ex-co-founder. And one of the shareholders shouted out at me, "You're just a carer. You don't know what you're doing." And she had to squeeze my leg under the table to stop me from crying, because she said to me, "Do not cry. Do not show them any emotion. You are going in there. You are strong. You are strong enough to lead this business. You have led this business. This is your idea. It is your time to step into your power." In your mid-20s, that is far from what you believe. It was far from what was going through my head. I was getting all sorts of PTSD coming up. It was flashbacks. I was dissociating. I was just sitting in this room of sea of men. Like, the stuff that I was thinking in my head, I was going, "You are nothing. You are worthless. Why are you sat here? What do you think you're doing? You have no power to do this. Why are you trying to lead a business?" The stuff that was going in my head, I can't even tell you. It was horrible. And it took so much power to basically power through. Eventually, he settled. We had to settle with him. And that's nuances for probably the late start part of the story. He walked away with still holding majority of his shares, 18%. He walked away with a settlement agreement. To this day, I don't know. I now know why. But there was a lot more nuances to it than I ever really knew. But thankfully, he walked away. I steadied the ship. We managed to raise another round. I brought in a CFO. I was given a chairman to come in and support the business. Being told that I needed somebody that was an older, grey hair at the table. Fundamentally not true, but again, I was young and naive, and proceeded to try to run the business. But unfortunately, what happened after that was continuous sort of bullying. I got weird people making fake accounts on LinkedIn and Instagram, and actually people that didn't make fake accounts on LinkedIn, they were my current shareholders. All variety of people that would send messages, write comments on my posts, really nasty stuff that I had to contact the banks they were working in and put cases against them to take them down. It became really unmanageable. And at that point, my mental health started to really suffer. I was losing control. I was losing control of myself and my ability to stand strong in my decision-making, to the point that the final spark was being told that one of our investors would only invest if I basically gave up my shares to revest. At this point, I only had 7% left. At the beginning, I was given, by the way, half the equity that my ex-co-founder had, because apparently I was young and never been a CEO before, so that makes sense, right? And so I was starting from a very low bar, and I was completely had no control left of the business. And I was told that I needed to basically give back the shares, or this person wasn't going to invest. And it was 24 hours before we had to make payroll. We were being told that this money was going to come in. And I was sat in the boardroom with my chairman at the time, my CFO. They put a piece of paper on the table. It was a glass boardroom. Everyone could see around me. And it said, you need to step down as CEO, give back your shares, otherwise this money's not going to go into the bank account. And I remember sitting there feeling like my world was falling apart, that I'd managed to steady the ship and got us to a really great place, but still that wasn't good enough. And I started crying, and I was told by the chairman, stop being so emotional. You're being very emotional. It's coming across quite aggressive as well. Because obviously I started saying, this is fundamentally not right. And I was emotional. And maybe I was coming across as passionate, which obviously as a woman comes across as aggression. And I walked out, I called my mum, and I absolutely just broke down on the side of the road, broke down. And she said, Devi, you've got this. You are stronger than you will ever believe. Stand up, get back in there, get your things, walk out, and we are going to fix this. What proceeded after that was she told me I should keep going. I said I didn't have it in me anymore. And I didn't. I didn't have it. My mental health was just in an absolute disarray. The irony was that the next day, my face was all over London on posters for the United Nations. It was a good thing. For a woman who was, I can't remember the term of it, what was on this poster, but it was hard to forget or able to achieve anything. And it was my face. It was the most powerful picture that had been taken. And it was in 10 women leading the way in STEM. And my face was up every escalator, in the tubes, bus stops around the world, Times Square. At the time that I was going through one of the most horrific experiences of my life, feeling like I was worthless, I was getting pictures sent to me from people everywhere saying your face is everywhere. I'd gone back into the office the next day because I needed to speak to the CFO about the steps I wanted to take. My mum came with me, and I remember so poignantly, as we were coming up Old Street where the office was, we were up the escalators, and suddenly my picture just came up every single frame up this escalator. We came up the top, and it was there on this massive board. And I just stood there and cried, and my mum just held me, and she said, this is not going to be your defining moment. Like, this is not the end of your story, but we're going to go out with a bang.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop there.
It did not stop there. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Honestly, I think there should be a Netflix series about...
We're starting it right here, right now.
No, that's what it said. You are impossible to ignore. That was it. That was the poignancy of it. You are impossible to ignore. Wow. And it was incredible. It was like, you won't be ignored because you are impossible to be ignored, because you're not going to stop here. But unfortunately, yes, the story didn't stop there. I ended up, I did a case out against how I was being treated. There was a lot of harassment, a lot of bullying. It was completely unfair the way that I was being treated. And I'm not scared to talk about it anymore. You know, I need to talk about it because I need other people to feel empowered that this does happen to a lot of people, and you shouldn't be terrified to speak the truth. And unfortunately, last year, another case came out against Vida, obviously since I've left, which is 8 years ago. 2 entrepreneurs that claimed that the idea was stolen because their investment firm that invested in me, these 2 entrepreneurs had pitched this investment firm and pitched their idea, which was in a care home software business. My ex-co-founder at the time worked for the investment firm and had been doing the due diligence on the company. They proceeded to not invest in the company, but the 2 entrepreneurs found out that Vida was founded by my ex-co-founder and I, who'd been part of all of the due diligence conversations, that they'd shared IP and business plans, that they were led up the garden path, that they were going to be invested in, but all of a sudden they weren't. And the investment firm, then obviously started Vida. I was called as a witness to the case that was basically against the investment firm for copying this idea. And hand on my heart, the idea wasn't copied. It was, Vida was a domiciliary care agency powered by technology, distinctly different business to the care home sector. But my ex-co-founder was seen as complicit in taking ideas from this business and putting it into our business. I had no idea because I wasn't around at the time when all of this stuff was happening. But what came to light in the court case was some horrible things of emails that were being shared that I basically had become a mouthpiece in, or a puppet in this show. And I had to stand up in court and for 5 hours be questioned about my integrity. Was I actually the founder? It wasn't my idea. Basically taking away everything that I'd built for those years based on my story and what I knew and what I'd defined me. And I think, the stuff that was being said to me and the way that I was being questioned, it was blindsiding me because the stuff that was coming out in front of my face, I'd never seen before. That was one of the most hardest things, that I'd built this company with such integrity and authenticity. And one of the things I stand by is that that's not who I am as a person. And that's why I show up in the way that I do. And this court case had ruled in a way that completely redefined how I thought about myself and made me question who I am. And I remember when the court case ruling came out and I just sat there and I was on the side of the road and I just sat on the road and I sobbed for hours. I couldn't move. It was just this feeling of like, this is now going to be what everyone believes who I am, even though, it wasn't against me. But one of the hardest things I've ever experienced, I think, fundamentally, on top of all the other stuff that was that court ruling. It was devastating.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. This is all going on 8 years after you have sort of put that chapter to bed. You've just become CEO of Brain Plus, a public company, which is in the same space. You're solving the same problem. You're sort of driven by the same motivations. How do you show up for work as a CEO whilst going through all of this?
It was really hard. I don't have a magic wand, or I can't even tell you it was fine. It wasn't fine. It was awful. I felt like I'd become a fraud in a lot of ways, even though I wasn't. I felt like you have these things in your head where you start really questioning who you are. And I remember saying to Fiona, my colleague, who is so dear to me, I said, people are going to look at me like I'm a fraud. And she was like, no, that is the opposite. People know who you are. People that love you and have worked with you know who you are as a person, will see that an idea is only an idea. The execution is 99% of building a business. The way that I executed Vida as a 26, 27-year-old was like, I will forever be proud of myself for what I achieved. So I wasn't a fraud. That was me. I did all of that. And she had to remind me every day of these voices that were in my head. The scariest thing for me was the fact that this court case was going to imply me to not be able to do my job, or implicate me that I couldn't be a CEO. But I spoke to my chairman and I spoke to my team, and they said that there's no implication because you were just a witness, so it's not against you. So it was really just my own fears that were coming out and not allowing it to define me. Classic trauma survivor, buries head in the sand, just takes 24 hours to grieve and then moves on. That's what I do. So I did 24 hours of crying and then I was up and at 'em, and I compartmentalized it. And to be honest, until today, I haven't thought about it. And I think the reason why is because I am every day showing up for Brain Plus and I'm seeing what I'm able to achieve. I am doing it. I am doing it with the most incredible team. I am winning sales. We're changing data platforms. We are changing the way dementia care is being delivered. Like that's my leadership. And I have to keep reminding myself of the fact that like I'm doing that. And I can't be a fraud of actual proof that's coming out. You know, I'm not like being puppeteered. This is me. And I think what drives me is proving to myself more and more every day that I can do. And I'm almost proving to myself, which is very weird. I'm challenging my own challenges. But that's what I do. That's my superpower. I'm really good at doing that. I challenge myself to challenge my own beliefs. And it's weirdly works. And it drives me.
What does that sound like?
It sounds like get up, go out there and do something today that's going to be absolutely groundbreaking. And that's what I do. I come up with one thing and I do it and I execute it. And when it's executed, if it doesn't succeed, it doesn't succeed. But I've done it and I've tried it. And when it does succeed, which is like 80% of the time, I'm like, I did that. That's incredible. And I keep a record now of everything that I do because then I can look back on it and I can't second guess and question stuff I've actually done. That's powerful.
Data is queen.
Data is queen. That is my new logo.
What is the difference between compartmentalizing something, putting it to bed, and bottling it up?
So bottling it up, I would say, is it feels like it's here. Something you've had experienced something, it's inside of you, and it feels like it's here. For me, I know when I'm bottling something and I haven't released it because I get a feeling of like I'm on the verge of tears every 5 minutes. I feel nervous energy. I feel anxious. I get like really bad anxiety responses. Like I can feel it in my body and I know because the body tells a story, right? It was this amazing book. And I feel when I know something's been bottled up because I physically crumple inside, if that makes sense. I'll try to go about my day, but it's not successful. And I'll probably be crying in a corner somewhere. When I've compartmentalized something, I actively go process it. I do process it. I process it in a way that is meaningful for me. And then I put it into a box and it stays in a box. If it comes out through some sort of PTSD or trauma response because it's something has triggered it, like today, speaking about it will trigger it in some form. I'll probably leave here and I'll have to take some deep breaths and remind myself that it's not me. I may decide that like, oh my God, I don't want this to air because it's like, I don't want people to know it. But I really don't want to do that. But it might happen. But that's just me protecting myself. But that's okay. You work through those processes and those thought processes. But when I've compartmentalized something, I don't get trauma responses or trigger responses from it if I've actually dealt with it in the right way.
What's your process of, how do you process it?
So I grieve it. I cry. I let it out. I really have to go to town on the tears. I'm not a big crier, so really not much makes me cry. So I know when I'm going to cry, I'm going to cry. And it's a real visceral response. It's like, I need to purge. It sounds really weird, but I need to get it out. And then I will feel so exhausted. And then I will normally sleep. And then I'll wake up. And then I'll breathe. And I'll do some sort of EMDR where I'll start tapping. And I'll associate that memory or that feeling with something that is now a safe response. And my safe response when I tap is thinking of my nan. I've said this before, like I get these moments in my head where I feel she holds on to me. So I reposition that thought of safety and push through and go out and get the next thing. That's genuinely my process. And then the other thing is reminding myself. So I'll have that book. So if it ever does come out, or even if it hasn't come out and I'm still trying to process it, I'll look through things that I've achieved and genuinely like just read it off. And it just goes into my brain. It's rewiring, isn't it?
It's really powerful.
The brain is unbelievably powerful.
What does that book look like in practice? Is it bullet points of facts? Is it journal entries? What does it look like?
It's usually I'll have like a few lines about what I've done and it will just be consistently written down, but it will go day by day. So each day, even if it's the most ridiculous thing, it could be so small. It could be, I made a really nice curry today. Because not every day you're going to have loads of wins. Or it could be like, I found a pair of matching socks. It's a win for me.
Data, whatever data it is.
That is a win. My child woke up really happy today and she said the most amazing things to me. It doesn't have to be things that you've successfully accomplished in business, but it has to be things that you look at and go, that was beautiful, that was lovely. And it's just about creating a bank of memories and moments that you're proud of, or you just think could bring a smile to your face. But if you do it day by day, you'll watch it accumulate, and it's the most beautiful thing to look back on.
It's a really, really powerful practice. And sadly, it feels like so few leaders are that intentional with these self-nourishing habits and ways that we sort of tap into our resilience and bounce back from when you get slapped in the face again and again and again, even 8 years later when you thought you put it to bed. So that's incredible. Throughout this process, I'd love to tap into or talk about communication. Mm-hmm. You are extremely authentic. You are admirably vulnerable in every format and stage that you're on. What I hear so many founders speak about is this tension between what they can and can't say to various people. Vulnerability is great to talk about on LinkedIn, but like when it comes to leading a team, where are the boundaries? When do you choose to lean into your vulnerability? When do you choose actually to put on a mask and show a face of confidence? Throughout this process, what did you choose to communicate to what team members and why?
Yeah, it's a really, really important question that I think depending on your leadership style shapes you to how you are, right? So I've always thrown myself into the fact that I believe truly, and this has been something that I've been told, is that I lead with so much authenticity, even in a business setting, that the reason why people like working with me is because I'm so authentic. I mean, I will laugh, I will cry, I will share, because I just think it's so important. Because you're bringing people along for a journey that you want them to feel comfortable with being as authentic as you are. That authenticity is so important. I believe it's so important. We are not defined by just the work. We are defined by everything that's going around us. And I think the more honest you are, the more you have conversations that are vulnerable and that you open yourself up to showing people the real you, the more other people want to do it. And then you build a team of just brilliant culture of openness. So I'm a firm believer in it. When it came to, telling people about what I was going through with the court case, I did tell my team, and they all came back to me and said, we know that's not who you are. We know how amazing you are and have the ability to do amazing things. So we don't believe that's defining for you. When I was going through the stuff with Vida and obviously getting rid of my ex-co-founder and all the stuff that was happening with my female employees telling me about the sexually inappropriate behavior, the biggest thing again that I did was go into rooms with my staff on an individual basis, on group basis, bringing everyone into the room. And I just told them honestly what was going on. I just said, this is a situation. It's horrible. I'm really struggling. I'm really hoping that we can get through this. And I'm going to be as honest with everyone as possible about what's happening. And if you're struggling, please, let's use this as like a sisterhood or a brotherhood, or like come together as a family, because we're trying to do something amazing here. And every single one of them really appreciated the authenticity and the honesty. And it's the reason why still I'm in touch with so many of them today. So it works for me because I'm able to show up in that way. It doesn't work for everyone though, because you shouldn't just tell your story for the sake of telling your story to have some vulnerability. You should do it with authenticity for a purpose that you really want to follow through with how you are and enable other people to show up in that way as well.
It feels like there are various elements to this which are important to go into the details on. One is the facts. This is what is happening. The other is, this is what I think we should do. And another is, how confident am I that this is going to work? It feels like you've really lent into being extremely open and authentic with the facts, such that people aren't left feeling like, holy like, is the company going to be okay? Am I still going to have a job? Like, there are lots of things which could be triggered for various employees. Do you have a process by which you communicate these things, but include a plan of action? Or how honest are you with that second order consequence or second order things that you need to share?
Yeah, I think you always have a plan of action. Always. Because it's really, you can't, as a leader, you can't go in and say, this is the situation and it's pretty dire without having a plan B, C, D, E, F, G to kind of like tell them they're going to be okay and the job's going to be okay. Has there been moments during every career, every company that I've been in where we might not make payroll, we don't know if we're going to fundraise or get the money in the bank? Absolutely. And in that case, I usually show up and say, this is a situation. We have got plan A, B, and C in the works. I always end it, if I truly believe it, by saying, we will get through this. I fundamentally promise you, we will get through this. And I'll do everything in my power to make it work. And I think other things I say is sometimes I'll look into the eyes of like, my CFO always is like, ah. And I'll look in her eyes and be like, I promise you, if I did not believe in this as much as I believed in it, I would not be telling you this. I fundamentally believe we're going to achieve what we need to achieve. And I think that just ability to do that, but I have to back myself. Like, I don't just say it without any air, and I would never say it without really believing in it. But I'll always say it if I believe in it. And I think that level of confidence of just looking somebody in the eye and just saying it with real honest intention can be so powerful. And then you have to deliver.
Yeah, just that minor afterthought.
Then you have to actually do it.
The 99% execution has to then come after that. Okay.
God help me.
So there's a series of events. Difficult moment happens. You're starting to deal with it. You have to formulate plans A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. You then go to your team. You tell them, this is the situation. Here are the plans. And given that you authentically believe that you're going to get through this, you communicate that to your team. And then you keep on updating them as the situation unfolds and as it develops. You keep on checking in with them to see like, how are they feeling throughout all of this? Anything else that you do habitually that really contributes to maintaining the confidence in the team?
Yeah, I think it's consistently keeping people abreast of like what's happening. I've not always been good at that. And I do fail at that sometimes, because when I get into the mode of solution finding or, firefighting, which often happens when you're running a business, my thing sometimes is I can just go into it and be like, right, I need to sort this out. And then I get really like focused on it, because you have to figure out and get a solution. And I'm probably working on the fact that actually it's really important to keep on top of sharing as much as you possibly can through that process, so that you can keep people interested in it. So that's something that I'm probably working on a lot more. But I think that's all about processes, right? I'm now starting to make sure that I've got really clear processes for how to report things, at what time, and what needs to be reported. And again, using data to invoke the trust that what you're going to do is going to be, measurably achieved is really important. But having, if you are in a crisis situation, having those periodic moments to report back is so important, and keep leading with that authenticity. But it is definitely an area that I think I can improve on, in terms of reporting more consistently rather than putting head down to try and find the solution, which is something that I tend to do quite a bit. Self-reflection.
This leads me into remembering something else that you mentioned on another podcast, which was speaking about female founders in Silicon Valley. And you said the female founders in Silicon Valley lean heavily into their masculine, and they sort of adopt the quite stereotypical Silicon Valley founder approach. What I'm hearing from you is that you have a really beautiful balance of your feminine and your masculine in your leadership, in terms of you really lean into this authenticity and vulnerability, which is more stereotypically feminine side. And then you have this plan and like problem solving approach, which is more stereotypically masculine side. how else do you see this combination of both your femininity and your masculinity show up in your leadership?
Oh, that's such a good question.
Hi, me again. Just want to take 10 seconds to tell you about our newsletter, which is the highest value per sentence in your inbox. We share summaries of the episode and then a mental model around the people side of company building and how you can apply it in your startup. Cool, thanks. Let's get back to the episode.
So I think my femininity, definitely is leading with that nurturing vulnerability. I think my masculinity, although I find it weird to frame it like that now.
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
You can't
weird,
bucket them neatly into one or the other. It's all a spectrum, right?
But I know the nuance of it, yeah. It's like, I'd say the masculinity aspect of it is traditionally men are better at backing themselves. That's the science. It's the backing themselves. It's the like, yes, I can do this. There's the unquestionable, unwavering sort of, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, sure. Which is really good. And actually it's something that I have learned to be more of. Obviously there's loads of data that's shown that women have a tendency to sort of like, okay, no, let me just double check that I can do it. Or no, I don't think I could take that promotion because of X, Y, Z. Or no, I don't think I should get that much money in because of that's what the science tells us, right? So I think what I've learned to step into more is that masculine approach to, yeah, we can do that. Absolutely. Let's do it. Without that unwavering sort of like faltering questioning first. But I think it's really good because it shows, for me, what I'm doing is showing that I'm backing myself. It's that backable sort of, I know this decision is the right thing to do, let's just do it. And also the commitment to showing up around like money decisions. I know I said sales is like, I keep giving free stuff away. but like, I've been a lot harder on things like money, which before I was quite soft on. So things like budgeting, where money needs to be allocated, how we should be looking at judgments around certain aspects of our P&L or our cash flow. I feel like I've lent into a bit more of a masculine approach about that. Again, I don't know if I can call it masculine because I feel like every feminine has the masculine in them as well. It's a difficult nuance to talk about, but I feel like that classical masculine stereotype of being able to make decisions without real emotion in it. Usually mine was always around money. I've sort of not lent into that anymore. And when I say that, if I can give an example, it's probably about appeasing for the sake of appeasing because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. Whereas now I don't do that. I do still believe in people's feelings. Obviously, I'll make judgments based on like heart and soul, but I don't lead with the emotion as much. I lead with what's right for the business and what's the right thing to do. Whereas prior, Devi would have led with, I don't want to do that because it's not nice or it's going to hurt somebody. Whereas now I take the approach that if I know it could cause upset, I'll deal with that upset and nurture that person or nurture the individual that needs to be nurtured whilst making the right decision. I won't shy away from making the right decision. So maybe that's a nice example of bringing it together. I think that's where I'm probably lent into it the most.
Could you give us like a comparative example of how previous Devi dealt with a situation which was more feminine driven at the start and then how you've dealt with it now?
Yeah, so maybe like one of the things I would do would keep people on even if they weren't good enough or doing the right job or we didn't need them because I didn't want to hurt them. And that was a really bad, that was a real thing for me. That was a real thing. I really struggled to let people down or upset people. Really struggled with it. I still do actually, to be fair. Like it really eats away at me if I see somebody's upset. So I struggled a lot with doing the decisions that I knew I needed to be done, but I didn't want to do it because it would hurt someone's feelings. So I might have kept somebody on for longer or not got rid of them just because I didn't want to upset them, which is a terrible business decision. Whereas now, I definitely wouldn't do that. Like I would definitely look at it from the outset of like, this is not serving the purpose for that individual. and it's not serving a purpose with us. So let's talk about, you know, how we can support you elsewhere, or, you know, things aren't working out, but I can help you. I can help mentor you if you need that, and we can figure out what you want to do with your life, but this is not the right path sort of conversation. And it's being able to have that conversation in the most nuanced way is really important. But oh my God, it's really hard. I still can't look people in the eyes and give bad or sad news. I really struggle with it. I'm like, oh, I find it really hard.
I suppose it's
really hard.
two sides of a coin of being deeply empathetic.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like, I just don't want to see people sad.
It's so interesting because you and my fiancée Laura share this trait deeply.
Yeah. And that's why we work really well together.
Which is why you work really well together, exactly. And the thing that I've noticed is it feels like there are two elements to this. One is the time frame by which we look at a situation within, and the other is whether it's sort of micro or macro. So in the short-term micro experience, you're there crushing this person, telling them they're fired, and that sucks. It's short-term, it's right here, right now, you're feeling the emotions, it's you and this person, it's one-on-one. However, the alternative is if this person stays on in the company and they don't perform, then that will drive out higher performers in the company, and over the long run, the company will suffer, if not die, because that behavior will continue. And so then if we're able to zoom out and think about it in the long term, it's like, okay, is this role best for this person? Well, obviously not, because they're not loving it. And so in the long run, it's going to be great for them. And actually, it's a kind thing to let them go at this point, even though it's painful now, short run pain, long run gain. And then also you've zoomed out into the macro and be like, well, I'm doing good by the company by letting this person go, even though the micro, it sucks, and the macro, it's going to be beneficial for everyone. Is there anything tangible that has helped you shift your approach to these situations, whether it be letting someone go, whether it be giving difficult feedback, anything like that?
I'd say I've become a lot better, even though I still struggle with it, in communicating it in the most effective way. I think before, my biggest thing was that I would sort of go off on this tangent of like, oh no, we're like, it's not you, and like, but we don't really want to get rid of you. And then the people would be like, well, then why are you getting rid of me if it's not me? And I'm like, oh God, I've dug myself into a hole here. And it would just be this conversation of just like, oh my God, you know, when you're getting rid of a relationship that you just don't want to be in, which obviously I'm really good at staying in those terrible ones. Clearly there's a pattern. And it's like, so I would just sit there and be like, right, it's not you, it's me. And then I'd be like, oh my God, what is this? I'm like a therapy session. I was 100% so bad at it. Now I've reframed it and I'm able to communicate it in a much better way. Like you just said, it's about thinking about the person, the individual. Are you happy here? Clearly you're not, because I can see you're not happy. Right, let's figure out a way through this. It's probably not going to work out here for X, Y, and Z reasons, but let's work through what you could be really good at. Let's think about it. Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing in 5 years? Like reshaping it as that conversation is so much better. You know, one of the things I've got really, really good at, I don't know if this is a good skill or not, but like looking out for toxic behavior and red flags. I would hope so anyway. And I've started to really understand where I've seen toxic behavior from certain employees as well. I started to notice it in Vida very well, obviously, thank God. And in, you know, subsequent jobs and stuff. That's been incredible for me. I can pick out toxic behavior and red flags like a fly around
like a sniffer dog, maybe.
It's a really good skill set. Yeah. But it's worked out really well because there's been scenarios in workplaces where there's been individuals that have been quite toxic, playing off managers really, really badly. And I've seen this behavior and sort of like taken it on board, whereas other people were sort of really blind to it because they're not used to being around toxic, manipulative people. I am, and I have been. Great skill set. Learning curves. And so that really helped me to understand and pinpoint what behavior is happening where. And I think that's quite good for a skill set. So I'll take that one for the team.
How have you encouraged yourself to act quickly once you see that toxic behavior?
Oh, like fully. So when I last saw it, it was within literally 12 hours. Like I realized it was happening, spoke to the other manager that was being sort of manipulated, sat down and said, has this person been saying this to you because they're saying this to me? Basically brought it out. And he was like, oh my God, she's been saying the exact same to me about you. And I was like, right, okay, so we're being played off. Okay, fine, let's talk to the person. Loads of excuses from this person, but actually turns out that it was completely toxic behavior. And then I started reading through messages that had been being sent, and it was awful. So it was a dismissal immediately. But it's that sort of behavior. It's like, unless you've got trust with your fellow management, fellow leadership to call out this behavior and have those conversations and say, look, this is what's being said about you. Can you tell me if the same is being said about me, or can you tell me what's going on? Somebody has to have trust in you as a person to be able to share that stuff, because it could, things could backfire badly in certain situations. So yeah, I've learned that really, you have to stamp out toxicity really quickly.
And you've built that trust through this authenticity, through this open communication, this vulnerability. All of it compounds over time. So it is a superpower. It is really, really strong. And then it sounds like you've been really intentional and proactive with the bits that you find hard, i.e. giving difficult feedback, dismissing people or letting people go, almost through building scripts in your mind to be like, this is how I have this conversation that I don't naturally warm to or I don't naturally do well at, which also just seems incredible. I'm super impressed.
Well, thanks. I'm just basically getting by day, but clearly I'm doing something.
You're doing something really well. I would love to touch on a couple more different topics, specifically women in work, and then the community of women in health that you're building with my fiance. But before we get on to those, and motherhood as well, actually. But before we get on to those, I'd love to talk about identity and how you previously identified with Vida. You said before, I was Vida, or Vida was me. And obviously that adds to the emotional strain and weight that all of these experiences, decisions, situations pile on top of you. How has your relationship with your identity and connection to the business evolved from Vida and now with Brain Plus?
Massively. Oh my God, I'm a different person. So I accounted my identity and my success to Vida because it was kind of together with my moving through the identity as like a domestic abuse victim. Vida's success was me stepping into this new chapter of my life where I started to really believe in myself. Because it happened at the same time, it became entwined. That like Vida's success was my identity, and my identity was no longer a victim, and therefore to be successful and no longer a victim, I had to basically make Vida a success. And it was just too integrated. At the same time as founding Vida, I was also in another abusive relationship. So, and I didn't really realize. So at the same time as trying to define myself as no longer an abuse victim, I found myself in a quite abusive relationship, which was, again, the journey of life. It's only actually really when I exited Vida that I stopped the abuse as well, finally. And then obviously met my husband now, who's the dream, like, he's my lobster. But he's my lobster. I can't have said that. Oh God, don't tell him that. And yeah, so I think it was all entwined into this one big messy path. But everyone needs to do that. Everyone needs to kind of go through this mess and this chaos to come out the other side and realize what their actual identity is. So I said at the beginning, Vida was this like huge platform for me to showcase to myself that I was capable of so much more, at the same time as building something that really was my why. It was where I found my why. It's where I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and gave me the platform to start pitching to men that I never thought I'd be able to do without getting dry mouth, winning money from investors that were all men. Like, it just basically started to fix me and heal me to the point that when I was 29 and exited from Vida, I also left this abusive relationship and walked away from it. And the day that it happened, so the great story is that the day that I actually walked away from Vida and signed the settlement papers, I was in bed, absolutely destroyed. I was like devastated. And I was still sort of like trying to walk away from this ex of mine. I didn't want to be with him anymore. And I was sort of just like done with everything. And I was like, I'm sick of his crap. I'm sick of everything. I just wanted to lie in bed and just like move away from everything. One of my best friends, Nat Walker, bounced up to my house in an Uber and was like, you're coming to Ibiza with me. And I was like, no, I'm not. She's like, you're coming to Ibiza. She was like, get out of bed. And I was like, I'm not coming. I'm depressed. And she's like, well, I'm going to make you undepressed. And I was like, okay then. Anyway, so she basically packed my case for me that had about one pair of underwear and a bikini. Great for 3 days in Ibiza. And pulled me in with my passport. Got to Ibiza. And within 24 hours is when I met my husband, Jamie. And it was this happenstance that I met the love of my life. I exited the business. I'd walked away from this abusive relationship. And this guy and I don't want to associate the identity with a guy, but it was more about the fact that I'd met this person that literally from that moment onwards has made me feel like I can achieve anything. He firmly pushes me to every inch of my being to basically do everything that I possibly thought I couldn't achieve. He's like my biggest cheerleader. And that in itself, having that support for somebody that's obviously an abuse survivor has profoundly changed my ability to look at how I look at myself. That coincided then with my confidence, my self-worth just catapulting through the roof. Not because he was telling me I could do it, but having that loving, safe support that I'd never had. And automatically I started to just see my life change and really start to push myself into places that I didn't think I was able to go into. And yeah, I owe a lot to finding that love, really, which is amazing.
Wow. As someone who is trying to create that same feeling for my fiance, I feel like I have a long way to go and a lot to learn from Jamie on that. What's the magical things that he do that feel the most supportive to you, that builds that confidence?
So he used to tell me, he still does, but he had this thing where every day he would just tell me like, you are incredible, like you are Superwoman. He tells everyone he meets, he's like, she's Superwoman. She's actually Superwoman. To the point that his friends have got an icon for me, which is the unicorn icon, that every time he talks about me, they sent this unicorn icon because he wouldn't stop saying how amazing I was. And I just think just the way that he would just tell me that I look me in the eyes and just say like, you're so incredible. Like you are just so amazing. Like he would read stuff that I've written and just be like, oh, Dev, I don't know how you do that. Or look at stuff I'd done and be like, oh, Dev, that's amazing. Like, I'd just be like, is it? And he'd be like, yeah. And he just have this little like, he was just like, honestly, like that little, if I could make a ChatGPT bot that would just send me positive affirmations, that's my husband. That was Jamie when we first met. And it was a time when I needed it. Things have changed. I'm joking.
Now he just
After having a child, now we need couples therapy. No, things change, and it's we now have a little child that we have to devote all these affirmations on. But now what he does is he will he's my support system. He's my network around me. So he'll cook me dinners and make sure that he's there to look after Alba when I'm out trying to build this business and I'm not there for days on end, and he's there being her dad and showing up as a man in the house that really would never have happened in the past. Really, it was the mother's role. He's not saying that, never would say that. He's there to support, and everything I say, I need to be away for these nights. Yeah, I've got you. Don't worry. I've got you. Alba's fine. I've got you. And that is just I couldn't ask for anything more. Yes, we have issues. We have problems. Oh my God, everyone does. But it is fundamentally that feeling of somebody's got you and is going to catch you if you fall you can't fault that.
Mm. On this topic of the expectations on women in this modern age. Our couples therapist has spoken a lot about this recently, where in previous times it used to be a lot easier. There were clearly defined roles that women stayed at home and looked after the kids, and men went out and worked and earned for the family. Nowadays, it's a lot more equal, which is beautiful. However, it feels like the amount of expectations on women to be incredible in their work and also incredible mothers is almost impossible to reach. The same expectation doesn't feel like it's fallen on men. Men are still expected to be incredible in work, but there's not as much of an expectation to be like the most incredible dad. At least it doesn't feel that way through like popular narrative. How have you balanced the expectations of yourself being incredible in your work and an incredible mother?
Horribly. I'm not succeeding at it. It's one of my areas that I really need to learn how to get better at, in terms of I have serious mum guilt whenever I leave the house and leave Alba. And bearing in mind, so I breastfed her exclusively for over a year, so 13 months. At the time, Jamie was commuting from Manchester to London. So in the weekdays, I was solo mumming a breastfed baby all through the night, like sleeping, no sleeping. Like it was really hard. And driving around London trying to get her to sleep. And we've got a connection, me and Albert. Like I think we're still one. I'm still finding it really hard to feel like I'm not connected to her, because I think of that, the moments where we were, alone breastfeeding is quite strong and powerful. And I think she feels the same. So there's a bit of separation anxiety that's really accumulated. It's also meant that Jamie, because she never took a bottle, she just outrightly refused a bottle. I feel like Jamie struggles with the fact that she constantly wants mummy, like it's mummy, mummy, mummy. But that's also partly because obviously he worked away and we've done our best in the circumstances. But he really struggles that when I am there, she just wants me, because obviously when I'm not there, she's missing me. And he'll try to go to her and she's like, mummy, and like we'll push him out the way. He's really struggling with that. That's really difficult for him. And it's really difficult for me, because I'm thinking I'm out here trying to have a career, spending days away from the house, and she's upset. Like last night, she was up in the night for 2 hours because obviously she gets upset when I leave, so it affects her sleep. The week before when I was away, the same thing happened. So it is affecting her. And then I think, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, you can't have it all. I don't fundamentally believe you can have it all. You cannot be 100% mum and 100% career. You've got to have the support network in place. But even with the support network in place, you're not going to be there 100% of the time. So then it's about, how do you show up in the most effective way that you feel like is not going to harm your child and also harm you as a mother, where I don't feel like I'm failing as a mum. So when I am there every single night, and I'd say in 2 years out of the, 700 plus days, I've probably done 80% of the night. So I do every single night that I'm there, I put her to sleep. It's our little ritual. That's probably counterintuitive to making sure that then now Jamie's okay with putting her to sleep and she gets used to it. But I then overcompensate, because every time I'm there, I'm like, I want that moment with her. But I do feel like I'm failing most times, like all the time as a mum, which is silly because she's the most beautiful, happy child. But you'll never get rid of that mum guilt, ever, unless someone can tell me how to.
It's an impossible problem.
I know.
What is your relationship with failure and feeling like you're failing as a mum?
Bad. I think especially when I look at her, my biggest fears come out around. The biggest thing is I don't ever want her to go through what I went through. Bad relationships, abusive relationships, put in harm's way. I had some awful experiences when I was much younger that I really don't talk about, but those things terrify me. And my sister went through something similar. It can probably allude to what I'm talking about. And those things terrify me. And I think those moments I'm not there and we're getting childcare, we're getting a nanny, is it putting her in harm's way? Am I doing something that's going to be damaging to her? Am I putting her in harm's way? That, as a mum, is the worst feeling in the world. Like, accumulate that with the fact that I've experienced these things as a child or in my teens. It's compounded. My fear, I don't want it to go through to her. There's that whole thing about generational trauma that I am doing my best to make sure it doesn't push onto her. But I don't see a way to currently solve the fact that I'm trying to have a career and be a mum and then have all these fears of failure at the same time. All I can do is do my best when I show up and give her as much love and safety as I possibly can. Jamie can do the same and our family can do the same so that we nurture a child that feels loved. I think that's the biggest win, right? That's 90% of it. So that's all we can do right now. And that, knowing that we give her that love, helps me abate my fears of failure.
It's really powerful. A slight tangent, but it's relevant. Your best friend Nat, who took you to Ibiza, does she have kids?
No.
She doesn't?
No.
Okay.
She's a great auntie, though, to every kid that is in her friendship group.
Sure she does. What would if you put on the hat of the person who's closest to you, who is also a parent, what advice would they give you with regards to this problem?
Probably, I've got some really good friends. One of my friends, Jordana, who's got a kid who's 1 year older than Alba. And she often says to me that it's like the anxiety of something going wrong is just your own inner fears of like something that has obviously happened in our past, right? That's our own anxieties. And pushing those anxieties out is not going to help in any way, shape or form in that day where you're worrying. It's not going to change anything. And she says the same thing, which is abate those anxieties and use that energy just to give them the love and the care that they need in that time, rather than the worry and the doom and they're not going to be safe, something bad's going to happen to them. And she's been one of the most supportive people when I've been talking about Alba and being a mum, because she just gets the anxiety piece. So one of the biggest things is talking to other mums that have, share those feelings, because problem shared is a problem halved. Again, it goes back to authentic conversations. If I speak to other mums and they're feeling it too, it means I don't feel so alone. So often I would call her up and then she's like, no, it's fine. I've been there. It's fine. You're fine. She'd have to talk me off a cliff. I'd be in my car crying, having dropped her off at nursery, and she's upset and she's like, it's okay. She's like trying to calm me down. You just need that. You need that like sisterhood again, right? You need those people in your corner that like get rid of those silly conversations in your head, which can be really harmful, really harmful.
Which is why you are building these spaces with Wealth.
Exactly. What a nice little direction that was.
So can you give us more colour as to why you started Wealth and what it is?
Yeah, so Wealth, Women in Health, the world's best community, led by the best people, including your fiance, Laura, who I have the absolute pleasure to work with amongst our team. So Wealth started because my friend Stasha and I came together. Stasha and I fangirled each other over Instagram. She's a Cambridge graduate, genomics PhD. She's 29 years old. Like, she's the most phenomenal human. She got the highest grade possible in her PhD in Cambridge. She's found the first gene that highlights when menopause basically starts in women. She's a powerhouse. She's Serbian. She's the type of woman that when we arrived at Amsterdam airport to go to her health conference, there was a huge queue for taxis and we were late to basically go do this event for Wealth. She bypassed and went to this random man and was like, can you please flag us on a taxi because we're late for this event? And I was like, Stash, you can't do that. You can't do that. Like, there's a queue of people. And she's like, Devika, here, now, we're going. And I'm like, what? And the entire queue's looking at us. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm with the Serbian. She's just like, she epitomizes, I want something, I'll get it. No shit. And I'm like, I need to be around people like that. That she's phenomenal. I now look up to her, even though she fangirled me for so long when I had Vida. She's hilarious. So we came together because we were really, really tired of going to events and community events and dinners and panels. And it was just the same conversation. Everyone was putting on a facade of like, it's fantastic. I've raised this amount of money. Only 2% of money goes to female founders. Oh my God, yes, we've heard this story over and over again. Like, can we change the narrative? Because the more we say it, the more it's going to happen. Manifestation and all of that. And we both believed in authenticity. We both believed in vulnerability. We both believed in turning up and saying the things that no one was saying. And that was our biggest driver for each other. So we initially said, let's put on a little dinner and invite 10 people. That turned into an incredibly sponsored dinner at the Ivy in Kings Road, where we brought together 16 women who cried around the table, who shared stuff they'd never shared before. We laughed, we made friends, we shared stories, trials, tribulations, challenges, wins, and we came away, everyone was like, our cup is full. And I came away making connections that I was like, I will hold in my heart forever. The community then starts to grow, and everyone, I swear, every person I've met, hands on my heart, could probably call up and have a conversation with them, and they would help me in one way or another. That's the authenticity of what we're creating. And it's for women across the entire ecosystem of health. So it's not just health tech, it's not just founders, it's everyone, because collaboration and connection is key to driving wealth. And it has to be across the entire ecosystem. And so now it's run by Laura, your fiance, Claudia, Stasho, and we've got a girl, Caitlin, in New York. And it's the most formidable, powerful group of women I have the honor to call like colleagues and friends. Oh my God, the way they show up, the intelligence, the passion, the commitment. I come off calls with them and I'm just like, I'm so glad you're in my life. And that's beautiful. I love it. I love it so much.
And what is the vision for it? What does it look like when it's flourishing?
So we are aiming to create basically a membership community so people can join, they pay sponsorship to be part of it, and they get access to incredibly authentic, beautiful community events, dinners, brilliant panels where we're talking about conversations that are really going to support you to just be successful, and a community of just thriving, fantastic, incredible women across the entire ecosystem of health. Once you're part of this community, you're part of this sisterhood and this family, and we'll do everything we possibly can to help you become successful, because that is what our success means.
Wow, I am honoured to be given a front row seat to this journey. So I'm so excited for you and Wealth. We are coming near to the end, and so I actually am going to pass the mic over to your husband, who no, he's not here. He walks in through the door. Yeah.
In through the window.
In through the window, SWAT team style. I asked him when I spoke to him, if he were sat in my shoes, what is something that he would ask you?
Oh, stop. Is it going to make me cry?
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Oh,
but
not again. I'm very emotional.
He asked, what is it all for? What's the end goal? Specifically, what would make you feel like you've made your stamp on the world?
Oh, love it. What's it all for? Maybe for like my stamp. God, that's such a good. God, I would not expect that from him. Did you use ChatGPT for that?
Off the fly. You don't give him enough credit.
Don't. When we fundamentally changed the way dementia care is delivered on that front line, it started with me as a carer. It's moved to me founding a dom care agency, supporting carers. And now we've transformed it into my mission, which is around upskilling these care workers who are the backbone of our society, who do so much for so little, to be able to empower them to deliver something that will fundamentally change the shape and face of dementia care. Once I've done that, I will feel like I have achieved, because that takes me back to being a young carer, full circle, to help people not go through what we went through.
Wow. Incredibly powerful, and such a consistent thread that runs through everything you've experienced, everything you're working towards, So that is phenomenal.
And also having a second baby, just to let you know, Jamie.
That was actually his second question. He was like, the tension in our household is, when is baby number 2 coming?
You tell me. I am ready. No, I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Love it. This has been amazing. The closing tradition on this show is because you've been so generous with your time and your wisdom and sharing your experiences. And assuming that this is listened to by an audience of passionate entrepreneurs, what is something that those people could support you with?
Support me with?
Yeah.
Wow. Right. So if anyone has any connections with care homes,
Amazing.
we are significantly changing the way dementia carers live in care homes, and we want to speak to as many care homes as possible. And to pay it back, I will help you however you need support.
There's no need. You've already helped so
No,
much.
please.
That's the whole point of this.
I like giving back more.
And is there any topic within company building that you would love people to share their experiences on?
Within company building?
Yeah.
I'd really like to start understanding, I know this is a big hot topic, but really around like AI and how people are utilizing AI when they're starting off to really streamline effective process delivery, really start to think about how they're honing in on being fast, iterating, pivoting, killing quickly through the use of like using AI to support teams. That's what I'm really, really passionate about understanding more of.
Amazing. We can definitely make both of those happen.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been so magical, colourful, so raw. I feel honoured. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. I loved every second of that.
Wow.
Wow.